Let's do the 60-second savings challenge. Step 1, download Rocket Money. Step 2, link your accounts and see every subscription you're paying for. Tap one you don't use and cancel it. That's money back every month. Step 3, create a financial goal. $50 every paycheck, or let the app automatically move small amounts of cash when you can afford it. In a week, you'll forget you set it up. In a month, you'll see real dollars piling up. In a year, you'll be shocked at how much money you've saved. Bonus challenge, upload an internet or phone bill and let Rocket Money try to lower it. You only pay if they find you savings. On average, Rocket Money members can save up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. Users love the app with over 186,000 five-star ratings. Make saving money the resolution you actually keep. Start the 60-second savings challenge at rocketmoney.com/cancel. That's rocketmoney.com/cancel. rocketmoney.com/cancel.
At the very least, if ICE is going to keep recruiting people with no business being in law enforcement, maybe we can counter that with an ad that unrecruits them.
Are you the type of guy who wants to be an ICE agent because it looks like playing Halo? Then here's an even better idea. Just stay home and play Halo. If living out your video game fantasy makes you want to join ICE, then we'd rather you didn't. So call 1-800-NO-ICE and we'll send you a PlayStation 5 and a dozen Xboxes so you can work out all that aggression safely in your stepdad's basement. Or maybe you like how ICE makes law enforcement look like a rap video. So we'll sign you up for YouTube Premium so you can just keep watching rap videos in your house, away from everyone else. Joining ICE means going outside, and outside is cold. But inside is warm and has Wi-Fi, so you can look at all those dank ICE memes. Whatever void in your life is making you respond to those ICE ads, we'll fill it. It's better for everyone. We'll also throw in a Pornhub subscription. You didn't ask for it, but we just assumed. So stay at home, because we want you to not join ICE. Brought to you by Americans who just want to go outside without getting shot.
Hello and welcome to Quiet Riot Sunday School, the gentle breeze after Thursday's Storm Goretti show. I'm Naomi.
And I'm Alex, the warm front trying to push up from the med.
I wish.
How are you, Naomi?
Bloody freezing, how are you?
I know you don't do very well in the cold, do you?
No, I'm a sunflower.
Even though I'm the Mediterranean one, you're the one that really suffers in the winter.
Totally. It's living under a scratched Tupperware bowl I can't bear. It's more the lack of light than the lack of heat at this time of year.
Yeah, it is very grey. But I quite like the crisp cold. Like, I've been out on a walk every day this week. I quite like it when it's sort of bright and sharp and cold.
Bring back the light, yes. I hate it when London can just be under a blanket of grey for a fortnight.
Yeah.
They can really hang over us, those
You're
fronts.
absolutely right. I call it dropper tool on rat, bucket tool on sky. Right. So, listeners, welcome back. This is your first Sunday school of 2026 officially. And if you can spare a little bit of money, as you know, we make all of our content available to everyone for free at the same time, because we don't want to distinguish between people who can afford to pay for something and those who can't. And we know, hearing from listeners, that a lot of people go in and out of those categories because they're contract workers or gig workers or whatever. So if you can afford it right now to bung us a $5 a month, then log on to ko-fi.com/quietriotpod. And please help us so that we can keep this free for everyone. As a reward, we have an editorial meeting coming up very, very soon that is open to all our subscribers. So you get to shape our content, suggest guests, say what features you like, what you don't like, and ask us any questions you might have about the show.
Alex, we have to talk about the killing of Renee Good in Minnesota by ICE officers and, frankly, the horrific response by the US government. What else should we mull over today?
I thought we should revisit the topic we have discussed a few times, and that's Elon Musk's erstwhile child pornography site, X.com, and the dangerous artificial intelligence tool that is Grok. and whether government should be on it, shouldn't be on it, what should we be doing with it, etc.
Definitely. And as promised, we're going to have to do our Wokey Dokey and Grin and Share It's from Thursday because we ran out of time to do it on the main show. So let's make sure that we leave listeners with a giggle and a smile before the end of the show.
It's a pleasure to do them anyway. Right. So let's crack on.
Quiet. Riot.
6 months since Trump allocated $75 billion to his anti-immigration militia of masked thugs, aka ICE, who have been abducting people off US streets to imprison in camps, this week perhaps the inevitable happen when trigger-happy ideologues are allowed to run amok. On Wednesday, an ICE agent shot and killed a 37-year-old woman in her car. Her name was Renee Nicole Good. Moments before her execution, she calmly said everything was fine and I'm not mad at you before an on-duty immigration customs enforcement agent fatally shot her 3 times in Minneapolis as she drove away. A voice says fucking bitch as Good's car briefly comes into view while it drives away and a loud crash is then heard. Her dog was in the back of the car unharmed. Despite clear footage of the incident, Trump mouthpieces demanded we ignore the evidence of our eyes, claiming the shooting was carried out in self-defense. US Democrats described the incident as a public execution. Naomi, what actually happened and how is it being presented by the Trump administration?
So Renee Nicole Good, 37-year-old mother of 3, US citizen, gets fatally shot. So she had stopped near the scene, and the video shows her in the car as agents approach and then shot her. It's disputed whether her vehicle actually posed a lethal threat, which is what the administration are claiming. And neither local officials nor independent analysis has yet confirmed whether or not she hit the agent. Multiple outlets report the footage is inconclusive or contradicts the self-defense claim. And local authorities have labelled ICE's conduct as reckless. Trump, Vance, etc. have all publicly defended the shooting as being self-defense and claiming that Good tried to, quote, weaponize her car, and have also blamed left-wing activism for creating danger for law enforcement. And they've even labelled it as an attack on law and order. Vance goes further, actually, talking about her having been brainwashed by ideology and responsible in no small part for her own death. Therefore, so their official narrative is weaponized, brought it on herself, and you've got to justify federal enforcement to exonerate the agent, despite what we can all see in front of our very eyes. And I just want to say one thing on it, Alex. Even if she had done something wrong, law enforcement are not meant to kill people who have done something wrong.
Yep.
They are not meant to shoot to kill unless it is absolutely clear that they are about to themselves be shot or killed in another way. And so even some pretty hardened MAGA figures are beginning to say things like, well, why didn't he shoot the tires out? Or why did he shoot her pretty much at point blank range 3 times?
To be honest, I just find it incredible that they even attempted to defend this. Politically naive, even. Take everything else out of it. It would have been so easy to say, we've launched an investigation, we'll find out everything that's going on, we're not going to comment on it until then. It would have been so easy to let a bit of time pass and then do whatever, maybe hang out that particular person out to dry as a bad apple, or, protect the project basically rather than protect the individual. Because I think it's a huge problem when you have that video to be giving a completely alternative take on it, like J.D. Vance did. Let's have a little listen.
Let's have a listen, yeah.
CNN headline about what happened in Minneapolis. And this is the headline. I'm just going to read it. Outrage after ICE officer kills U.S. citizen in Minneapolis. Well, That's one way to put it, and that is the way that many people in the corporate media have put this attack over the last 24 hours. And I say attack very, very intentionally, because this was an attack on federal law enforcement. This was an attack on law and order. This was an attack on the American people. The way that the media, by and large, has reported this story has been an absolute disgrace, and it puts our law enforcement officers at risk every single day. What that headline leaves out is the fact that that very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car. What that headline leaves out is that that woman was there to interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation in the United States of America. What that headline leaves out is that that woman is part of a broader left-wing network to attack, to dox, to assault, and to make it impossible for our ICE officers to do their job.
Alex, what has the UK media reaction been?
Incredibly, they've also both sides did. I was absolutely appalled when I tuned in the next day on Sky News, and the framing all morning, like literally the first sentence they said, introducing the story at the top of each hour that morning, was to say that an incident has happened and that the description of what happened is hotly contested.
Vigils and protests have been held in America after a woman was shot dead in Minneapolis by an officer working as part of Donald Trump's controversial immigration raids. 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good was in her car when she was fired at, and there are deeply conflicting accounts about what happened. Donald Trump says the killing was in self-defense, but the mayor of Minneapolis slammed that version of events, telling officers to get out of the city.
And it's like, I would understand it if this was some esoteric incident to which there were no witnesses. But on this occasion, you have video. You have video from several angles. You have spoken to several eyewitnesses, all of whom confirm what happened. So why are you doing one side says it's raining, the other says it's sunny? Who's to know? I just don't get it. BBC were doing the same. I know that they're terrified. In Sky's case, it is owned by a big US media giant, Comcast, and it's probably terrified of pissing Trump off in the States. In the BBC's case, it's been cowed because it's been sued. But still, when it comes to something like this, that is so clear and
It's very Orwellian.
and has such good evidence out there for journalists to go and watch for themselves and people to go and watch for themselves. Why muddy the waters? I don't get it.
The Times have said, in the video, Good's wife can be seen taunting Ross, the officer who shoots her, filming him with a phone and daring him to escalate just before Good hits the accelerator, either in an attempt to flee or hit the officer. And that's, when she then calls him, he calls her a fucking bitch. The framing of that by the Murdoch-owned Times is that apparently a woman hurting a man's feelings justifies him being able to kill her.
And to kill a different woman as well,
Right.
Because there's nothing suggesting that he knew these two people were partners, right?
No.
There's no way of knowing that. So the idea is that because he was being taunted by other women in the crowd, it's okay that he lost it.
To take it out on her.
And like I said, even if you were so exceptionally generous to that interpretation of events to excuse that first shot, then the next two that came through the open side window of the car, when it is physically impossible for the car to harm you in any way or threaten you in any way or feel you're in danger in any way because you're already by the side of it, and to shoot two more times.
He endangered himself by putting himself in front of her car.
It's just ridiculous. I find it, to be honest, I find it beneath us to even have to discuss this. And I find it beneath the BBC and Sky News and Times and all organizations like that to not be calling this what it is, which is absolutely clear to any person that watches that video, period. This was an execution. This was an execution of someone by a hothead with a gun.
Quiet, Riot.
You didn't start a business just to keep the lights on. You're here to sell more today than yesterday. You're here to win. Lucky for you, Shopify built the best converting checkout on the planet. Like the just one tapping, ridiculously fast acting, sky-high sales stacking, champion of checkouts. That's the good stuff right there. So if your business is in it to win it, win with Shopify. Start your free trial today at shopify.com/win.
Quiet, Riot. The US right-wing media, from what I've picked up, have totally been portraying her as an active threat, a deranged leftist, someone who caused her own death. The focus has then shifted from the killing of a civilian, which, as you say, is exactly what it was, to defending federal law enforcement and discrediting any criticism.
Yeah, and monstering her, by the way. Let's have a listen to Jesse Waters, one of the most toxic people on Fox News. And this was his first report of what went on.
The woman who lost her life was a self-proclaimed poet from Colorado with pronouns in her bio. A 37-year-old white woman named Renee Good. The Daily Mail says she leaves behind a lesbian partner and a child from a previous marriage. She was a disruptor, though she considered herself a legal observer. But there's no evidence she had a law degree.
And how have the MAGA base reacted?
It's interesting. I found it very interesting that Trump's initial reaction to the shooting was a lot more equivocal, actually, because he happened to be giving an interview to the New York Times when the story broke. And so he was shown a video, that video by the New York Times journalist that was interviewing him. And his response was that, I hate to see things like that happen, but law enforcement has to do its job, that kind of thing. And then when he came off that interview, he claimed when he was asked later that he hadn't seen any video of it, which was an outright lie, because the journalist showed him the video live as he was being interviewed, and he reacted to it. It's in the interview. And so he claimed that he hadn't seen a video of it, and that he has now seen several videos from different angles, and it's all very complicated, and, the agent was probably afraid for his life, etc.
Yeah.
I also find it interesting that the MAGA base, people like Laura Loomer, they're staying largely out of it. I mean, Laura Loomer has obviously posted stuff saying, pronouns, look at this angle or whatever. But it's been like 2 or 3 posts in the space of the last 3 days. Nothing like the sort of Laura Loomer you would see if this was a bone that she felt is worth getting hold of. And I find that very interesting. And that's largely replicated across the MAGA base. They kind of amplifying the best points made in defense of the officer, but they're not really getting involved.
I think everyone is frightened. All of this MAGA lot know it could just have easily been one of their own caught in a crossfire situation like that. That it may only be a matter of time before an unwoke, in their view, innocent person gets shot because of the sheer scale of these operations and the number of men armed and masked on the streets with the authority to do what they've done. So I think there probably will be a fear of that, and therefore peddling the pronouns and the leftism and the lesbianism and the wokery and all of that to sort of signal, look, so long as you don't do any of those things, you'll probably be okay. Like, let this be a warning, guys. We've got to, make sure that we are very visibly, clearly on the side of Trump in order to stay safe.
It's interesting to see how exactly that same crowd treated the shooting of the woman during the Capitol riots, where they have sought to present her as entirely innocent. And they have made precisely the distinction you make, Naomi, about a civilian versus, a law enforcement person, and how the law enforcement person should have somehow sucked it up, even though those law enforcement officers were actually in danger, in mortal danger, and in fear of their lives. I mean, go watch that video of them being crushed by the revolving door. And so on that occasion, they seem to get the difference. And also it instantly put me in mind of what happened in Charlottesville. Do you
That's
remember
right, of
that
course, yeah.
a girl was run over by a car? And all of them came out to say, well, the person in the car was scared because they were in the middle of the protests. And famously, even though you had actual neo-Nazis marching down the street, Trump came out and said good people on both sides. And so I find it very interesting, the sort of intellectual contortions they get into, because I feel that they're beginning to fracture them.
Yeah. I agree.
Weirdly, you would
I
think
feel
there
that
is
too.
no limit to their hypocrisy, but actually, the last few days, I have felt those contortions are beginning to take a toll.
Now, the investigation into it is being led by the FBI, and they are excluding local officials, Minnesota officials, from the investigation. That is unusual. It is
It is.
unusual for the BCA, the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, to be excluded from a joint investigation and be replaced entirely by the FBI, especially in a shooting involving a local citizen, because normally state agencies participate in use of force investigations to ensure independence and public confidence. And I think this is going to have the opposite effect of independence and will erode public confidence, because there will be that lack of local trust and transparency and fueling perceptions that the federal government is shielding their own agents from scrutiny, and of course will therefore encourage critics to label the probe as politicized rather than impartial.
I mean, again, contrast to what happened with Charlie Kirk.
Of course.
In circumstances like this, there's like a choice to make it maximum transparent, to come out and say where you're at, what you're doing, and that tends to foster public confidence, or to close it up and say, we're going to deal with this, don't worry about it, which has signaled, before they have done a single bit of investigating, before they have written a single word on a report, it has signaled to everyone that they intend to whitewash this. I mean, that's basically what's going on.
And what about reaction from the anti-MAGA movement and protests around the country over it? What are we seeing happening?
Well, there are big protests in Minnesota, first of all. They have now spread to Portland, Oregon, because in the couple of days after the shooting of Renee Good, there were another 2 shootings by federal officials in Portland, Oregon, because everyone is touchy now, you see. And then there have been nascent protests in Phoenix, Arizona, notably in Washington, D.C. But as you know, one of the biggest factors in protests like this is the weather. Actually, I think Trump is quite lucky that this has happened during a week of incredibly cold weather, even for winter, even for northern states, sort of really biting.
It was the murder of George Floyd, of course, in Minneapolis that led to the whole BLM movement globally kicking off. So
like a couple of hundred yards from where this happened.
Exactly.
We will see. We will see. I have the feeling that this is still percolating, that the anger in this is still building. And they very much are trying to sort of eliminate it from the headlines. It's interesting that if you search protests US at the moment, all that comes up is Iran.
Well, of course. Let's talk about that. Iran. Huge protests happening, complete lockdown of communication channels, internet blackout, difficult to even get a phone call in and out of Tehran at the moment. Trump, he claims to have sorted out Iran last year, and there are reports in Venezuela as well of brutality by the remnants of the Maduro regime. What can Trump actually do? I mean, is he going to bomb both of them again? Is there a limit to that kind of foreign policy? Where do you think?
I mean, that's what he's saying. He said about Iran that if they kill any protesters, if they shoot at protesters, I'll shoot at them. Those were his actual words.
Yeah.
And he also let it be known that he cancelled another operation in Venezuela at the last minute a couple of days ago because the remnants of the Maduro regime behaved themselves. He was about to mount another attack. So the problem is that when you send planes or helicopters or missiles in to bomb an area, you're still punishing, to a large extent, people who happen to be in that area. it's not as targeted as a boots on the ground operation could ever be.
Yep.
And so this is the problem. This is the problem. I sorted out 8 wars. Look at me. Well,
Yep.
you haven't actually. You've
No.
just gone in, made everyone pause by bombing them.
Or shooting
And
them dead.
and then nothing happens as a result. You haven't done anything to foster a change in that country, to encourage a fair election, you've just gone in and basically bombed people. And then 6 months later, the whole thing just melts into disorder, and your reaction is, I'll bomb them again.
And it's the same. You could have inserted the USA for Venezuela or Iran there, like both domestically and internationally.
Yeah.
His pattern is the same. Force or aggressive posture is easier to announce than to effectively contain or manage without
Yeah.
any unintended consequences. And so I just think it points to a broader strategic question about whether he can strengthen stability or, as we expect, just constantly amplify conflict.
Yeah. He's the Donald Donald Trump mainee. There you go. And also, he's intensified the rhetoric on Greenland.
Oh.
Greenland political parties have issued a joint statement, all parties in Greenland, saying, nope, thank you. And who would want to be part of Trump's America right now, looking at what's going on there? Who would want to be without healthcare and with a state in meltdown and with people being snatched by masked individuals and bundled into vans in the middle of the night? Who would want that for their country? But still, Epstein files, not a peep. Not a peep for 10 days. It's now on the 5th was the date on which Pam Bondi was meant to give an account of why she has broken the law. And there's been nothing on it.
99% of the files remain unreleased.
Quiet, Riot. Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now, you call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.
I didn't even realize I was wasting $415 a month until I downloaded Rocket Money. I thought I had my finances under control until the app laid out all my spending and categorized it for me. Takeout, shopping, and unused subscriptions were quietly draining my account. And as a result, my savings took a back seat. But Rocket Money doesn't just tell you what you're wasting money on. It takes action to save you money. First, the app looks at your income and monthly expenses and calculates how much you can safely spend each day to stay under budget. Rocket Money also finds and cancels unwanted subscriptions for you and even negotiates better rates on your bills so you have more money in your pocket. On average, Rocket Money members can save up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. Users love the app with over 186,000 5-star ratings. It's time to simplify your finances and take control of your money. Go to rocketmoney.com/cancel to get started. That's rocketmoney.com/cancel. rocketmoney.com/cancel.
Grok is maximally truth-seeking AI, even if that truth is sometimes at odds with what is politically correct, said Elon Musk of the latest version of his model that is being used to generate sexualized deepfakes of women and children. With Grok being integrated into X.com, the images have been shared with abandon.
Well, I think it's very important for there to be an inclusive arena for free speech. Twitter has become kind of the de facto town square. It's just really important that people have both the reality and the perception that they are able to speak freely within the bounds of the law. So one of the things that I believe Twitter should do is open source the algorithm and make any changes to people's tweets, if they're emphasized or de-emphasized, that action should be made apparent so anyone can see that action has been taken. So there's no sort of behind-the-scenes manipulation, either algorithmically or manually. If I acquire a Twitter and something goes wrong, it's my fault, 100%.
This week, the company responded to increased criticism and threats of the site being banned by multiple jurisdictions by paywalling the use of its image generator to paid subscribers only. Essentially saying, if you want to be a pedo, you have to pay to be a pedo. AI companies are struggling to monetize the mounting costs of developing their tech infrastructure, coming under increasing pressure from investors. This means it's not just Grok behaving badly. Other tools are exploring more sexual content. OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT, for example, have said that they plan to launch a, quote, adult mode for its chatbot later this year. Technology Minister, and in my opinion, no leading light or moral authority, if you ask me, Liz Kendall has urged Ofcom to expedite their investigation into Grok, while Starmer has called Grok disgraceful and disgusting. The Liberal Democrats have called for access to X to be temporarily restricted in the UK while X is investigated, and Farage says that X needs to go further than the changes it has already made to Grok. But he did say that the banning of X in the UK was frankly appalling and an attack on free speech. Alex, I'm old enough to remember last year when the world's richest man, Elon Musk, waded into the grooming gangs issue, accusing Keir Starmer of being complicit in the cover-up. So now he's found a way to make money out of child sex abuse. Has he changed his mind about wanting to protect women and girls?
I don't think it was that genuine to start with, do you?
I don't know.
Yeah. So I find the whole thing comical and vile in equal measure. The notion that the solution to creating a tool that can undress anyone against their will, let alone children, and plaster the photos all over X, the notion that you deal with that by making it a premium service is almost worse than when it was open to everyone. I don't actually know. I think it is worse.
You're creating a club.
Well, yeah, you're saying you want to undress that child, that'll cost you £5. But for that £5, you get to undress unlimited children for a month.
And cover them in white goo. That is what, it's not just naked children.
It is incredible to think that anyone in that organization thought this was a good idea.
Totally. More and more politicians in the UK have joined Blue Sky recently, but a lot remain on X, including government accounts. The Prime Minister has called Grok disgraceful and disgusting, fine, but where do you think their red line is? Like, if mass-produced sexualized images of real women and real children don't trigger platform suspension or restriction, can the government tell us plainly what would?
It's difficult because I am one of the people who still think of X as Twitter. I'm trying to wean myself off that notion that it's still the place where you go to see what someone has posted. So I can only imagine that it's the same in government mindsets.
But the difference is you are also on Blue Sky, so you're getting both. My concern about the way government policy is shaped is that if your primary pulse take of public opinion is the comments on X posts, then you are going to be so heavily skewed.
Yeah.
Towards the far right.
Yeah, you're getting a warped version of reality.
Especially when most of those accounts are fake now. And we know that many of the reactions are bot generated, whether from Moscow or other hostile actors, America included. So I think it's terrifying. And I don't think there's an equivalence between you keeping an eye on, what has Pam Bondi said in reaction to XYZ, and the government not realizing where the bulk of its voters are talking and what their views are on everything.
Yeah. And I mean, I've stopped now, not even engaging, but even looking at my timeline on Twitter in any way. I will only dip in for specific searches. I basically use it as an archive. Like, there was a video of something 4 years ago. Can I go and grab it, sort of thing? So I will do searches, or what has Laura Loomer said about, or what has Tucker Carlson said about the killing of Renee Good? So I will use it like a right-wing space that contains an archive of things people have said and posted. And I don't really engage with it in any way. 6 months ago or a year ago, I would have made the argument that government needs to be on all channels. It needs to meet voters where they are. But surely there are limits to that. We wouldn't expect government to be putting out videos on Pornhub because some voters go on Pornhub.
Grok are doing it for them, don't worry.
So we must be now over the line.
Yeah.
That means they just need to signal that they will not use it for official government purposes. There is no clean version of X and dirty version of X. There is no wall between those two. It's all one thing. And as it becomes more and more, not only a radicalization site really for right-wingers, but also a porn site, an illegal porn site, a site of online abuse, surely they have to take a stand.
Let's have a listen to Technology Minister Liz Kendall.
I think the images being produced are despicable and abhorrent, and sexualizing images of children is one of the worst crimes imaginable. And I think it is insulting to say that you can still access this service if you pay for it. So Ofcom should use the full powers of the law that Parliament has given it. X needs to get a grip and get this material down. And I would remind them that in the Online Safety Act, there are backstop powers to block access to services if they refuse to comply with the law for people in the UK. And if Ofcom decides to use those powers, they would have the full backing of the government.
Alex, is this a failure of regulation to keep pace with ever-changing tech? Or do you think a failure to just hold nerve in the face of global bullies? We've already got the Online Safety Act. We have the regulator in Ofcom with investigatory powers and the ability of the government to fine or block platforms. So is this a gap in the law, or are we just sort of too frightened to use the powers we already have against a billionaire who owns this megaphone?
I don't think it's either of those things, to be honest. I think it's a general awe of technology. It's a generational thing when people just freeze the moment anything is to do with tech or AI or social media or the internet or computers. They go into this sort of defensive mode where they think, I don't know about that. We need to get some technical expert. But as I've said before, the only way to regulate technology is by going back to first principles. There is no other way, because it's so rapidly changing, because it so quickly and efficiently finds ways around legislation. The only way to regulate it with any effectiveness is to go to first principles and to say, you as the owner/publisher of this site, you are responsible for any harm you might cause to children. Do it that broadly. And then whether you're allowing, self-harming videos to go out, whether you're allowing videos advocating anorexic or dysfunctional behavior with relation to food to go out and actually push that content onto people who may already be teetering on the edge of that problem, whether you allow your AI to undress children and put them in sexualized positions, it doesn't matter. You are responsible. It's your thing. You're doing it, or you have the power to stop it. Now, if someone turned around and went to court and said, because of the way technology is, we actually have no power to stop it, I would listen to that argument. But surely the onus has to be on them. If Elon Musk can press a button and make this kind of sexualized content available to members only, surely he can press that same button and make it available to nobody. I honestly think it is a kind of fear of this sphere of technology that prevents people from regulating it effectively. Because actually, if you take it back to first principles, you would never be awestruck by the way a toaster works. You would never say, I don't know, if it electrocutes people, might it actually be for a technical reason? Who cares? You make the toaster. It's your responsibility not to electrocute people using it. I don't understand why people see it as any way different, especially in a situation where someone fully owns this website, this platform, this AI that operates on it. Like, just do it.
And you also have tremendous forces within our political ecosphere advocating very strongly for tech and AI. And of course, tech can be a use for good. Of course, it helps us innovate and cut costs and improve lives, and it has that capacity to do it. So I think there's, on top of the fear you mentioned, which I believe is very real, this sort of contradiction between, oh, well, if we want the good, do we have to accept some of the bad?
I mean, yeah, sure. Toasters are great too.
Yeah.
Just not the ones that electrocute people toasting bread.
It's a historically hideous season.
It's our 100th ugly house.
And if these walls could talk.
Do you cry a lot?
I do.
Ugliest House in America, all new Wednesday at 8 on HGTV.
The number one resolution for people last year was to save more money, but nearly half gave up by February. Don't let that be you. Download Rocket Money to reach your financial goals this year. Track your spending, cut waste, and automate savings in one simple app. Rocket Money shows you all your expenses and categorizes them, so you know exactly where your money's going and where you're overspending. From there, the app cuts waste by canceling your unused subscriptions and lowering your bills. No customer service needed. With that money freed up, the app will automatically set some cash aside for your goals. Whether it's an emergency fund, paying off debt, or saving for vacation, Rocket Money's got you covered. Users love the app, with over 186,000 five-star ratings. And on average, users can save up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. Make saving money a priority this year. Go to rocketmoney.com/cancel to get started. That's rocketmoney.com/cancel. rocketmoney.com/cancel.
The question I would have for you, actually, Naomi, is can government leave X or even go a step further and ban it until it sorts this thing out? Or is it somehow hamstrung by the deal it's done on tech with Trump?
So the interesting thing about how we got here is largely that the US is a global leader in tech development, tech product, and has been forever. And they effectively bullied all their trading partners into passing anti-circumvention law that would ban any kind of reverse engineering and unpicking of how they made it, which would allow you to modify an existing product to make it work better for your market, for your users, for your regulatory environment. And so for decades, US trade pressure has shaped how countries regulate tech. And effectively, it's deterred stronger rules by threatening tariffs or legal reprisals if they did it. And that's what some commentators like Cory Doctorow call the enshittification of tech, the way that platforms extract value by design and regulators being boxed in because pushing back would risk economic punishment. But then along comes Trump 2.0, who gives this economic punishment anyway. You know, hundreds of countries around the world got tariffs. So that deal has already effectively been broken. And I think that the UK isn't genuinely hamstrung if it acts with others. And the real weakness here is not tariffs, but fragmentation. The EU has shown that through competition laws and fines and market access rules, you can discipline tech giants when you operate at scale and, very crucially, with confidence. So what's undermining the UK isn't regulation, but hesitancy and mixed message and the fear of being first mover. So it's about whether government sees tech regulation as a sovereign consumer protection and safeguarding issue, or keeps allowing it to be framed as a trade irritant. And so tariffs, in my view, are a pressure tactic rather than a veto. And if the UK coordinates with its European allies and uses existing powers and treats harm as a non-negotiable, then I think the leverage would shift pretty quickly.
It will be interesting to see what happens with the EU on this issue, because they are already sort of a step ahead in their escalation with Musk. Some people may have missed it because it was a very rich month news-wise. But in December, European Union fined Elon Musk's site 120 million euros over the use of its blue tick badges. In response, Musk banned the European Commission from doing any promoted content on the platform. And so, do you see what I mean? Their battle is already edging a step ahead. And so it wouldn't surprise me if it was the European Union first that decided this last thing with Grok, undressing children, is simply a step too far and banned X. And maybe that would give then the UK the impetus and courage to do that as well.
And don't worry, Rupert Lowe will take to the streets if we follow suit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the grifters are seriously worried, right? Because, I mean, if you banned X in the UK, you would deny quite a lot of people a living, effectively. You know, there are people who make a lot of money off X. So, yeah, that'd be a bonus. But let's see what happens. On a personal level, I know you were planning to close your X account. Have you done it?
I haven't closed my account, but I've deleted the app.
Right.
And
okay.
I can't log
Have you
into it
made
from
private?
my computer. So
Have you made your account private?
I have, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I've locked
good.
my tweets or whatever that
Yeah,
means.
good. You should. Yeah. Because I was going to say that I think I will do likewise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make one last big push. So I'm putting together a new subscriber pack, as it were, for coming over to Blue Sky. I'm putting together one with all our contributors and all the people involved in our podcast, etc., like a big Quiet Riot starter pack, because they're very good on Blue Sky. You literally click on a thing and it gives you a ready-made timeline, as it were, an environment where you're following all the people recommended by a particular starter pack. And since we first did it, the number of people you can include in a starter pack has tripled. So I'm revisiting our starter packs and making them much bigger.
Excellent.
And I will be making a last push on X this week for people to come over. And then basically I will be leaving that as the pinned
tweet,
post,
yeah.
making my account private. And I think that is important. I don't think people should be deleting their accounts on Twitter, because that makes their username available for someone to abuse, which I'm very conscious of. And also, you know, X might change hands again.
We can dream.
But basically, making your account inactive, as it were, and locking it down, but leaving a post up there that still directs people to the social media that you do use is, in my view, a better solution. Like, why would you leave a space when you can leave a space and put a sign up saying, find me in this other space?
It's like going to the Carlton Club and doing a poo and not flushing.
Why must you drag the level
Which
down
I've never
at
done.
every
I've never done it.
opportunity?
Well, folks, it's that time of the week when Alex goes where progressives fear to tread deep into enemy territory to uncover what's been deemed woke this week. It is, of course, time for Wokey Dokey.
Wokey Dokey.
Take it away, Alex.
So this was suggested by Matt Evans C and Claire Angela on Blue Sky, and also by our lovely Nigella. A college professor got an email from the leadership team from Texas A&M College, which you may remember was in the news a few months ago when they sacked a teacher for teaching something about sexual preference and gender identity to some students there, and being secretly filmed by a student that disagreed with her, who then went and demanded that she get sacked from the principal. The principal ended up sacking her. The principal then ended up resigning. And then the legal authority, the panel that basically administers such things, came along and said that all of that was completely wrong and that the teacher did nothing wrong. And A&M refused to reinstate her, as simple as that. And so A&M then introduced a rule saying no, basically no woke content, to which there was large-scale resistance. They then slightly watered that down to no woke content unless absolutely necessary to your cause. And now they get to, I mean, this is insane. They get to approve every syllabus of every teacher for every course. They get to scan it for woke stuff and say whether that is necessary for the course or not. And so one of their professors received this email, and I read to you directly from it. Thank you for your email. The college leadership team and I have discussed your syllabus and the provost's office's requirements for compliance with the new system rule 8.1. That's the rule saying no woke content. You have two options going forward. You may mitigate your course content to remove the modules on race ideology and gender ideology and the Plato readings that may include these. Or you may reassign to teach a completely different course. Please let us know by the end of business tomorrow. How would you like to proceed?
Plato.
So Plato is woke, which means the ancient Greeks invented woke. It's something I always knew, to be honest. But it is nice to see it confirmed.
Plato, are we talking 2,500 years ago?
Yeah, I mean,
right
Plato famously discussed the different kinds of love, one of them being platonic, and that different kinds of love can exist between different sexes and different, he discussed this whole issue, but obviously in a very 2,500 years ago way.
Yeah, assuming slavery is pretty normal in his society and women can't be rulers and yeah.
And the point is, it is a foundational bit of philosophy on which Western civilization is
but
built
philosophy's
on.
woke.
So, yeah, I guess so. But then they should just not do a course in philosophy, would be my solution.
But
I don't
what's
know.
the exposure here? Because obviously in the UK, universities are very heavily state funded by comparison to
some of them are
private
in the US as well. Some of them receive
but
a lot
what
of
about
federal
this uni?
funds. No, it doesn't. I mean, it got record funding under the Biden administration, interestingly enough, because they do a lot of renewables work. So they are one of the leading institutions in researching what's known as forever chemicals. And they're also, I think, the leading institution in researching how to extract rare earth minerals back from unused electronics. Their work is pretty woke, and they're going to get slammed anyway. And like I said, they got bugger all from the Trump administration. So I don't understand why they're doing this. And it is bitterly interesting to me, especially given we were discussing X/Twitter just now, that it is Plato that came up with the allegory of the cave. I don't know if you know it.
I do, yeah.
The very quick version is that if you have a set of people who have been chained from a young age to look at the back wall of a cave, then all they see is the shadows of the real world outside, and all they hear are the echoes of the noises outside. And if you were to free one of them and drag that person to the outside world, they would react very violently because they would not believe that is reality. Reality to them is those shadows they see. And I think that ties into both what we were
I was going to say
Twitter.
Get off X.
It is. And I feel that, I'm not absenting myself from that. That is exactly what I was describing.
Yeah.
It's been the environment in which we have got our news for such a long time. It's really difficult. I found it's taken me basically a year to wean myself off going there to see what is going on a particular issue. And now I use it really only for archival purposes. But it is hard when you are used to that projection in that wall. The light of the real world is very intrusive to you. That applies to education as well. And I think that is what is happening here. The US administration is actively chaining people to the back wall of that cave. And I know Wakey Dokey is meant to be a funny feature, and it is quite funny that they've decided Plato is woke 2,500 years later. But it's still quite bitter, I think, that this is happening to a country that was considered by many to be a leading light in the field of education.
And post-Enlightenment. Well, listeners, I hope you enjoyed your first Wokie Dokie of 2026. Do keep your eyes peeled for flagrant wokery and send it to us via quietriotpod@gmail.com.
Yeah, and now it's very, very much time for a little bit of joy. You need to give us something that will uplift us for the rest of Sunday. It's time for Grin and Share It.
Good news is welcome to me. Bad news is hell. Come to me. Good, good news. Do-de-o-do-lo, 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 I want good news.
What have you got for us, Naomi?
Gumbo. Do you know what gumbo is?
I love gumbo. Shrimp and chicken and sausage and
A really
rice.
good Louisiana
Yeah.
stew. Very nourishing. Well, there is a gumbo restaurant called Shrimp Basket in Pensacola, Florida, where the chef is a black guy called Donnell, and his number one customer is a 78-year-old white guy called Charlie. Now, Charlie is a veteran. He lives alone. And for company, and probably because it's cheaper to eat out than cook at home, he drives to Shrimp Basket every day at 11 a.m., which is when the restaurant opens. And he has done this for years and years. And he says he's got no family, very few friends. He never married or had kids. So his outing to Shrimp Basket has become his daily touch point with society since he retired. So he goes for a late morning meal of gumbo with a side of rice and no crackers, and sits by himself until Donnell gets some time away from the kitchen, and then Donnell comes out and sits and talks with him, and they have a lovely chat.
Where is this going?
Well, one day Charlie didn't show up, and the staff immediately knew something was up. They knew that he hadn't been feeling great, actually, and I think one of the waitresses had been taking him a bit of a takeaway carton and leaving it by his door, and he was sort of saying, "Don't come in, I've got nasty virus, just leave it by the door, I don't want to give you this cold or whatever, I'll come out and get it." But then one day he was sort of missing in action, and so Donnell was like, "Right, I'm going to hang up my apron and I'm going to go over to Charlie's home." And he knocked on the door, no answer. He started beating on the door, no answer. And then eventually, after hammering very, very loudly, Donnell heard a faint cry coming from inside the house. And luckily, the door was unlocked. Basically, what happened is that Charlie had not taken his medication that morning, and he'd fallen over a few hours later. He broke a few ribs. He was severely dehydrated. He was unable to get up. And he said, quote, "If Donnell hadn't showed up, I was going to have to try and crawl out the front door and just wait until somebody found me on the sidewalk." So Donnell saved his life. Charlie ends up being in rehab for 7 weeks. He then got home. All of the Shrimp Basket employees got together their cash to buy him a Zimmer frame, and they signed the Zimmer frame seat. So all of his friends have signed the seat, and he's got this lovely aid to help him get around, and a reminder that he has got people who love him. And they're going to give him a free cup of gumbo every day for the rest of his life. But Casey Corbin, who's the Shrimp Basket's general manager, has gone even further and found Hicks, Charlie Hicks he's called, an empty apartment next door to the restaurant. So now he doesn't have to get in his car anymore. He just lives a few steps from his daily gumbo and his friends at Shrimp Basket. And hearing what his amazing team did for Charlie, Jeff Brooks, who's the brand president of Shrimp Basket nationally, has announced that the chain, which I think it's got 18 locations, is offering all customers a free cup of gumbo every morning for 3 weeks as a gesture to, quote, inspire more acts of kindness between neighbors. And I just think in a week of such horror news coming out of the US of total polarization and division within the country, what a lovely, lovely example of a community rallying together to support a vulnerable person.
Oh, wow. That is extraordinary. What a nice thing to close on. That is the takeaway story from today, actually. Not all the toxicity and the nastiness of a handful of rich men with shriveling cocks, but the kindness that goes on every day in our communities. That's the takeaway.
Riot.
And on that note, let's bring Sunday school to a final prayer. Listeners, thank you ever so much for lending us your ears once again this weekend.
Amen. Yep, listeners, thank you very, very, very much. And don't forget to like, subscribe, leave us a review, back us on Ko-Fi, or visit our bookshop.
We'll be back on Thursday with another bumper show. So until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend and remember to keep on quietly rioting.
We love you very, very much. Bye.
Bye.
Quiet Riot is an audio production by Cooler Heads with Naomi Smith and Andreou. Produced by Kenny Campbell. Music by Mariana Sangeeta. Artwork by Simona Canelu. And edited by me, Alex Reese.
Quiet Riot. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom just because I walk as if I have oil wells pumping in my living room? Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head, lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my sassiness upset you? Oh, don't take it so hard, just 'cause I laugh, as if I have gold mines digging in my own backyard. You can shoot me with your words, you can cut me with your lies, you can kill me with your hatefulness, but just like life, I'll rise.